Okay, so this is the final issue of the Swamp Thing 89 miniseries. Would have been issue 91 in the original run. So I did a little bit of research about this because there's some weird stuff that happens in this, and I thought, well, that doesn't seem right. My assumption was that I assume this was the original script for this, and then and I always also even assumed that first issue, at least that first issue, was drawn. And then anything else after that was maybe drawn and never printed or whatever. And I thought they skipped a couple of months and it kind of just, they jumped. No, it wasn't. They actually did do issue 89, 90, 91, and 92, and it continued. But obviously, Rick Veitch was off the book at that point in time. Now, as I said before, that first issue, the controversy around that issue, I can kind of see maybe why DC were a bit tentative to do it. But everything else after that is very much, according to the write-ups, very, very similar to what we actually got. But it wasn't until I was reading through this that I realised that this is kind of been either updated or rewritten. Anyway, so Swampy and Abby are sitting in this tree, and he's talking about how he got lost and how he found a way back to her and all this kind of stuff as well, and how we see Arcane turn up, and while she's about to have the baby, Arcane can cause people to kind of bicker between each other. So they start bickering. He tries the same thing on Constantine, and Constantine's like, well, there's no one here for me to bicker against. No, it's all right, you can bicker against yourself because you've got all these worries about Newcastle and this kind of stuff. And you go, right. And it's here that I start going, well, this don't feel like an 89 book, because Constantine's dropping F-bombs like nobody's business. So it's like, okay, this feels modern. So this makes me think it was at least rewritten slightly. Anyway, they talk about the amber, and apparently the amber is his spirit, effectively, like I said before. The ring that he gave her is enough for him to kind of find his way back. And Swamp Thing managed to defeat Arcane, basically by kind of effectively draining his energy out of him and kind of thing. And he just ends up being a little head. And Constantine has this thing where he basically says, oh yeah, you've been talking to Nurgle. Well, tell you what, take Arcane back to Nurgle. We're not interested in, he can do his own thing, but we'll see him another day, kind of thing. But the weird thing about it is she has a son. And it's like, right, that's really strange. Metron turns up about looking for the boom tube and says, right, Darkseid's going to be after you now because you've been all the way back to the Source Wall, and you know some secrets about it. And he kind of tries to get Swamp Thing to spill the secrets. And it's like, well, you kind of carry it with you all the time. It's like, oh well, I'm not interested in your frivolities. I'm off. So they're really worried about it. So Swamp Thing says, right, we need to. Swamp Thing says to Constantine, right, we need to try and figure something out. So Darkseid's going to be harassing us all the time. And Constantine says, right, I think I know somebody. And this is where it gets really weird. Constantine is like, I know someone who owes me a favour. So he goes and sees Spectre. And they mention Crisis, and they basically say, right, we can transport Abby and Swamp Thing to another world, another Crisis world, and we can swap them over for another version of Abby and Swamp Thing. So Spectre does that. Basically rips a hole in dimension, sends Abby and Swamp Thing through, which is to the planet that we saw previously, which is just seems to be like kind of this idyllic planet. And a new Swamp Thing comes through with Abby, and they have a daughter called Teffi, and that's where it was. That's where kind of where the actual story continued, which made me want to look this up, because I thought, well, if they've missed all these 4 issues, and then obviously she's got a baby and it's Teffi, that kind of tells in. But according to this, if you go by these storyline, it's not even the original Swamp Thing. The original Swamp Thing goes off and has a happy life somewhere else. Utterly bewildering. So so I'd really love to go back and hopefully when DC finally get their arse in gear and actually start doing some more Swamp Things, because I know they're starting off with some Swamp Thing, and they actually get round to doing these, I can read the original run, because I doubt these are going to be in there as well. But mind completely blown that Swamp Thing effectively, as of issue 91, disappears and goes off to his own dimension and lives a happy life. And the one that we have from issue 92 onwards, technically is not the right one. Again, whether this was the original intention, or whether or not this wasn't, I don't know. Maybe this was added to it just to kind of like either fill it in with continuity or just for the sake of what the hell, are those something incredibly weird. But all in all, it's been a decent little miniseries. Really, really enjoyed it, and it's been really, really nice to actually read those kind of an original style Swamp Thing book. I love the fact that it's got the original ads in it. I especially love the fact that it's got original D&D second edition advert on the back of it because that's just awesome. But yeah, very, very nice. So I don't know if it's going to be traded or whatever, but I probably will pick this up as a trade to put next to those DC Finest because I don't think it's going to be in there. So yeah, very, very cool. Nice comic book. Say out of the two or three this week that have been really, really good, Swamp Thing's definitely up there with them. So yeah, very, very cool. Anyway, I think that's enough rambling for now. So thanks for listening, and hopefully I will see you on another video very, very soon. Bye bye.